Well, here we are playing Clippers, just at the very beginning of it. I went through the rules in a very sketchy sort of way, as usual, in my introduction. But here, let's see. We're going to start with the first player. He's got the anchor over there. He's got to make a choice of what he's going to do. Now, here's one of the problems. These things are really tiny, and I went into this a little bit when I explained the rules. Hey, the US and the British one are really hard to tell. To tell you the truth, though, standing back, it's hard to see how many dots there are in each island. You gotta kind of really push in. And it's hard to really get a grasp of what things are yours and where you're heading and what's important to you. All that said, it doesn't make much difference at this point. I gotta hand out some money because people want to get, for the most part, that 2 times one. So let's see where the setup is here. This is one of those games with kind of one of the annoying rules. First player is the youngest player. I understand the desire to give an advantage to the game with something like that, but those kind of things almost always annoy me. Except for in Tales, where longest beard comes in, which is just kind of cool. But I've never understood the youngest player. I'm looking for the money here, which should be handed out. Everybody gets $2. That's enough to buy that card and nothing else. Well, the 3 times card can be bought too. 2, 4, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, and here we're wasting time as I gather all these chips up. Well, it's my time as well as yours. Of course, yours is multiplied by the literally tens of people who will watch this, but that's okay. All right. Hey, I don't expect this to be a terribly desirable viewing show. I think I'll get my usual 30 or so people. So, the Netherlands, I believe that's going to be, says, I want to buy, and I'm going to start keeping money up here because getting it from there is too difficult. The 2 times card, and that's it. I don't have $3 for a Clipper. And you know what? Everybody who can do so is going to do just that. Alright, now we're out of the easy choices. And now comes the hard call. Well, you don't have the money for a Clipper. The only things you have money for is, do you want the 3 times or the 5 times? The 5 times is actually a pretty good card. It gives you more chits than the 2 times, so I believe the Brits are going to pay their buck to grab that card. But that puts us on the US player, who really has nothing they want to do. They could lay a port, though. And everybody else has been abandoning and ignoring ports, but it seems to me that the US could kind of sink themselves into some of these big 8-point areas. Now, they're already heavily invested in the Solomons. New Guinea and Australia is one way to go. The other way is going up here. And I think things kind of benefit the British and the US being kind of towards the middle. It's going to be easier for them to score their stuff. I'm going to put it here and join with the Germans at Nauru. And that becomes sort of a secondary goal for me because of that. All right, well, let's get started with the second phase now. And the US still has both his bucks. The second phase is laying pieces. And we start off with the Dutch. Well, we have to kind of define where their territory is and what they're interested in. They want to get to Australia. There's no question there. But how do they want to get there? And they've got pieces over here that they'd like to drive down, and then here. Of course, they also have something up here in Funafuti or whatever, but they'll let other people work that. They're looking more at Fiji as a plausible location. So great, they got a 2-point card. They'll grab white, because white has a bigger counter mix than does green. And they'll move into Hiva Oa. And because they're the first company to link this up, they pull $2 in. Except it's doubled because they have the 2 times card. So they end up with $4. Cool. Alright, well, they still have another play to make. Now, they would like to hook something else up. I mean, what the heck? There are other options. They can pull green down and get money for that, but, you know, they can get more money by connecting up somebody else's stuff. And they don't really mind doing that. They'll sail up here and get another $4 for linking up that Rangiroa. And they're owed $1. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab some money. I'll get it all over there eventually, but... Alright, so there's their $4. That's the end of their first action. And now we go to the Japanese, who also want to kind of look at what they can define. Now they have this 2 times card, so they want to score islands too, just like the Dutch did. But it's gotten harder. There aren't a lot of one spacers left. There's the green one here. I think that's the only one left. So scoring 2 islands doesn't look like it's going to be possible. Given that, well, what do they really desire? They're way up here in the Marshalls, and Malden looks pleasing to them. They're going to drop down here and put this into play, grabbing $4 for themselves. And now we're on the Germans, also in that $2 thing. They also like the North. What is their other side? Unfortunately, their other side is down here at Fate in New Zealand. That's very pleasing to them as well. Hard call. With 2 chits, they're going to go for that southern route. And they're going to hook up Pitcairn Island. Of course, this helps the Japanese, but maybe they'll end up down there. Who knows? And they get $4 as well. And now we're on to the Brits. And the Brits have an option. They can either do nothing and save their plays, and you have to play at least one if you can play, but the 5X card has a special rule on it. It either plays nothing or it plays up to 5. They can either play nothing or they can play their 5X now. It's it's a tough balance because you can get a lot of control later in the game if you later in the turn if you play it. I think they're going to hold off and not play it on the first round. So they're just going to do nothing for this one, which only they can do. And now we're on the U.S., who, well, we're kind of figuring out what the U.S. wants to do. Now this green connection, again, doesn't terribly help except for this. Blue is here. The U.S. wants some cash. They link this up and grab $2 for that. And they're getting a nice little... But now they've got another single space. And they can't shoot up here. That would be going against the arrow. They can't gain anything here. None of the others have 1 space islands except this green one, which only produces $1 for them. But what the heck? And here's the thing. This money, this early money, is probably more important than which direction things are moving in, alright? Which direction things are moving in is very important, especially late in the game. But at this point, these islands aren't your very valuable ones. You may be abandoning these using the port card before the end of the game. So if they're not hooked up, it may not be that big a deal. You do want to control the direction of the flow in general. But again, some cash may be more important early on than doing that. In fact, cash is important, period. I mean, that extra $4 or whatever is the equivalent of, say, getting a line through one of these kind of medium things that you own. Okay, so now we go back, and we're back at the beginning, and this is phase 3. It works exactly like phase 2. Great. So, what about the Dutch? Well, they want what? They're kind of happy with what they've got set up here. Ooh, people screwed up. There's that connection. Damn. And to tell you the truth, the U.S. couldn't play 2. They only had 1. They don't get the 2, so they lose $1 that I gave them illicitly. So they only got the $2 for this hookup. So, yeah, I forgot they don't have a card. Everybody else who played had one, so it's great. All right, well, people missed this, and that's not too good for them. So what we're going to do with the Dutch is knock a piece off the board. See, these damn little things are really annoying. They get $4 for hooking up the Carolines, and then they're going to take the extra $1 for the green. Oh no, no, they're here. Ooh. Oh, that's just 1. But that helps them. They'll make it $5 to hook that up. And they're done. We're on to the Japanese, and what are they trying to do? Well, again, they're trying to score points, but they have additional goals, and there's no more easy scoring. The Dutch really kind of cranked it up with what they did. I wish I had noticed with some of the others. But now we're seeing the Japanese were trying to push through here, or maybe to Fiji. And if fate. And that sounds like something out of... Alright, we'll push here and grab them. That shouldn't be $5 for the Dutch. It should have been 6. 4 plus 2. They've got the doubling card. And likewise, this will be $4. And they go here. If fate sounds like something from Fifth Frontier Wars. I think it's one of the planets is named after that. Okay, now we're on to the Joymans. And where are they trying to go? Well, again, there's sort of this mix because you've got strength here, but then value down here too. And I'll kind of push this way and grab their $4. Now we go over to the Brits. Now the Brits have their 5, and this is going to take me a moment to think about in order to get right. But that's something that's always less fun to do on camera, so I won't be doing it very often. But let's take a look. Where do the Brits really want to get? They don't want to dive bomb into Hawaii. They're not going to get any advantage out of that. Their goals, well, mainly are hooking things up. Where are 1-point connections? There's one here again. Everybody's missing a connection. Great. Okay. So they've got a 1-point connection. They're going to drive there. And it's really hard to see them all for me, which is why this is happening. Okay. That gets them $2. Because they don't have a multiplier on the 5x card, but they also don't have a 0. Okay. But I've got 4 more connections. What else can I do? If I cut down with white here, I get 2 more bucks. And finally, I've used 3. I've got 2 more left. I can cut over with white to here for another $2. And I've used 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got one more connection, and there's got to be another 1-pointer. We've seen it already before, but there's one right here too. And that one's worth 2 points. And I've got to pull them from the bin. All right. Well, that's the end of the Brits' turn. And now we go to the Americans. And the Americans have nothing. They have a 1 play. That's it. They don't see a lot that they can gain here. Really, perhaps their best move is now finally grabbing this $1 for placing this piece. Not a great move for them, in terms of payout, etc. But they don't have the card. They didn't have a card available to buy. And everybody else grabbed cards. They took their option to play a port because that seemed like the next best option to get one of the high-valued locations. That may be putting a pressure on other players to do so. In the game I played with my wife, we both dropped a couple of those 8-pointers right away. Actually, I don't even... Yeah, we did. And in Hawaii, for example. And then she continued with that policy, and I held off and expanded my roots, grabbed money, and took them for where they were most valuable at the end. And she had to pay money to use ports to reallocate things, including one of the Hawaii ones, which I didn't get to do. Okay, now we're in phase 4. Option cards are returned to their place on the board. The first player passes over to a new player. Great. So all these cards go back. I mean, there's not a lot here to phase 4, right? This is just a bookkeeping piece. This comes down. The 5x is here. And that is the end of 1 turn. Put this here just to help remind me. And that's where we are. The board doesn't mean much, I mean, the board is just, hey, how many of my flags are hooked up? You can't remove routes once they're down. But we see, people trying to optimize their money at the moment, kind of doing damage to the company's overall goal to reach certain flags or whatever, at least at the moment that people are making those choices. So, for example, whoever made this, and I think it was the Brits, they're not terribly desirous of linking that island up. That helps Japan, but it gives them some quick money. Japan could pull that off later and replace it in the game. So it's not that big a deal you're hooking up a 5-pointer for Japan. Once you start getting, I don't know, to making real choices between those, it may be harder. But here, it probably somebody else would have done it if they didn't, so they might as well take the money. Otherwise, they would have had to, spend to force the line down here or up here, neither of which is really attractive to them. You want to grab that early money, I think. I'm not sure. But money is very useful, I've seen, in the game. You can really, not only is it the victory points, but it's valuable to buying the additional cards. And there's a danger if you run out of money. We were worried, it's possible you might need to do a lot of reallocation at $4 a pop, and you might not have the cash to do it. It's just a worry that you have to have. Anyway, this one's going up, and hopefully my computer will have completely restarted. Some damn stuff was dumped on me and forced a restart in the middle of my workday.